Happy midnight, everyone. The moon is shining, and I hope all of you are smiling. I've seen a lot of comments in my recent videos asking me to show how I make the redstone sorting system that I use in most of my farms, so that's exactly what this is. This video is going to be a tutorial on how to make a very basic item sorter for all of your farms or storage system. Now, as I'm sure you've noticed, we are in my classroom from my Redstone 101 series, but this is not a video in that series. We're just going to be using the classroom and Redstone lab for the tutorial. If you're watching that series through, this is not one of those episodes. This is simply a tutorial on how to make the sorting system, so let's jump into it and get to learning. So here we have a single completed module for the type of sorting system I'm going to show you guys how to build. You guys can pause here and copy it if you want, but no worries, I'm going to go through step by step how to build it yourself. Now, I build my sorting systems from the top down. You can build them bottom up, but I find it's easier to build them top down because that's the way that the signal travels, so it's a little bit easier to think about them that way, and I think easier to build them that way. That's what I'm going to be showing in the video, but you can build them from the bottom up if you want. So starting at the top, the very first thing we're going to need is a redstone comparator, and then a hopper that's going to be facing into the comparator. You can see this hopper faces into the comparator. Obviously, this is going to be the comparator that detects what is in this hopper, and that's how we're going to be filtering items to begin with. Next, we're going to come 2 blocks out and 1 block down. Oh, down. There we go. And then we're going to place redstone dust on the top of these 3 wool blocks. Next, we're going to place a wool block right here so that we get this kind of backwards C shape. And then we're going to place a redstone repeater facing this way on top of the wool block. And the last thing you need to do is place a solid block here that the repeater is leading into, and a redstone torch on the side of this. This should be what your finished product looks like. The comparator is in comparing mode, and the repeater has no additional delay added to it. Now, the beauty of this particular design of item sorter is that it's completely modular. So we can go ahead and place a second module directly next to this one, and they won't interfere with each other at all, and they'll be able to function independently. So there, we've gone ahead and added an entire second module with a redstone torch, and now both of these are able to work independently of one another while being directly adjacent, even though these lines are connecting. And I'll explain why that is in just a minute. Now again, due to it being modular, you can place as many of these directly next to each other as you want. Here I have 5 individual modules all next to each other. All of these can sort 1 item each, and you can do this for however far in any direction that you want. For now, we'll just look at a single module. Now, currently, this module isn't capable of sorting anything because we haven't configured it to do so. So let me show you guys how to configure this module to sort for a specific item. Let's say I want this item sorting module to sort out the apples from all the other items. To do that, I'm going to open the hopper, place a single apple right here, and then I'm going to fill the rest of these with some sort of filter item. A filter item is going to be any item that stacks in groups of 64, and it needs to be a completely unique item so that no other items going over the item sorter will fall into the hopper. And let me show you the easiest way to do this. We're simply going to plop down an anvil, and we're going to rename this stack of dirt to anything we want. So I've gone ahead and renamed this to Steven the Filter Dirt. Now if we go back to the hopper that we're configuring and we fill up the remaining slots with just one of our Steven the Filter Dirt, now this hopper can only accept 2 types of items into it. It can either accept apples, which is what it's sorting for, or it can accept Steven the Filter Dirt. You can see here in my inventory we just have regular dirt, and if we throw it on top of the hopper, this hopper can't pick it up. It can only pick up items and our special filter block. Now, I recommend after you set the filter block that you throw away all the excess filter blocks, so I would get rid of the rest of these Steven the Filter Dirts, because if they were to fall into the system would actually collect them and break. So let's go ahead and connect this sorting module up to a storage system. We can do that by just having some chests or barrels over here and have some hoppers facing into them. Now that we have this sorting module along with a storage system to accompany it, I want to take some time to explain exactly what's going on so that you guys can understand the logic behind this system. In its default state, this hopper right here is being powered because the redstone torch is powering this block, meaning that both this hopper and this hopper are currently locked. That's why our filter hopper is able to keep the items in it without this hopper below taking them out. Now let's take a look at the circuit and we can maybe deduce what's going to happen. This comparator is looking into this hopper and seeing how many items are in it. It's then outputting a redstone signal that grows in strength proportional to how many items are in the hopper. So the more items go into the hopper, the stronger the signal strength coming out of the comparator. Now, when the redstone line gets strong enough for this last redstone over here to become powered, it's going to send a signal through this repeater into this block and turn off this redstone torch. This is going to unpower this hopper and allow items to pass through. So let's see that in action. If we add just 32 apples to this, we can see that it stays locked. But if we go ahead and keep adding apples, we'll see that eventually the circuit powers, we can see the redstone torch is off, and apples are being allowed to be passed into the storage system. And there we go. Eventually, the torch turns back on as this signal slowly decays because items are being taken out of this hopper. And you can see we're left with 41 apples. If we put just one more apple in, it gets taken out, and we're left with 41 apples again. So the remaining apples were allowed to pass through the system and end up in this bottom chest. So just to briefly recap what's going on, this hopper can only accept apples or our filter block. When it starts receiving apples, the signal strength grows until eventually it reaches this block. That'll pass the signal along, unlock the torch, and unlock these hoppers and allow the apples to pass into our storage system. That's pretty much it, guys. That's how you build one module of a sorting system. Next, I'm going to show you guys how to create an input for the sorting system so that you have items running across multiple modules. So I've gone ahead and built up 4 more modules, all adjacent to the first one. So we have 5 modules in total. The first module is still configured to sort for apples, the second one for oak logs, the third for spruce saplings, then redstone dust, and lastly, ender pearls. Yes, you can use this sorting system to sort for items that stack in 16, not just 64. Now, of course, if we want each of these hoppers to sort for the item that they're configured for, we need some way of bringing the items across all of the hoppers so that they can find their home. There's lots of different ways to do this. You can use a hopper minecart, a chest minecart, you can use ice or water pathways. The simplest way is to use a hopper chain with the caveat that hoppers can only move things at a certain speed. So if the sorting system is for a particularly fast farm, the system might get clogged, but for most usages, hopper pathways are okay. So I'll go ahead and show you guys how to build. It's really quite simple. We just need a hopper chain that travels directly over these sorting hoppers. So here we just have a hopper chain. Items would be moving along here, and if they fit any of these 5 items that we're sorting for, this hopper will just take them out of the chain. Any item that doesn't have a home in one of these 5 modules will just continue in the hopper chain, and it'll end up in this chest, but you can really send them anywhere or just make more modules. So let's go ahead and test the system. As you can see in my hotbar, I have a variety of items. Some of them have homes in these modules, some of them don't. I'm going to go ahead and put them all in the chest, and we should see them sorted into their correct homes. So I'll open up the chest and just start throwing in items. They're now going to be traveling in this hopper chain across the item sorters, and if they have a home in any of these 5 modules, they should go into the corresponding chests. For example, here we have the ender pearls chest, and ender pearls should be making their way through the system shortly. And there we go. You can see the system is sorting the ender pearls, and they're ending up in this chest. Here we can kind of see the apple module working in action. You can see it's going to 42 apples and then it's letting one through, but it's always staying above 41. And we can see when the system is done sending apples through, it's going to pause at 41. Now recall that each of the modules needs a certain number of the items to stay in the filter hopper. So let's say we send through 64 logs, but the filter hopper doesn't have enough logs in it to get going. It's actually just going to keep 40 of those logs in the collection hopper, and you're only going to be left with 24 logs in your collection chest. So basically anything you make a module for is going to take around 41 of that item to work. Doesn't mean your system's broken, it just means it's working properly. I wish I'd built this a little to the left so I'd have more room, but let's take a look in our chests. We can see the system sorted out the apples. We see we didn't end up with any oak logs. Again, that's because all the ones that we put into the system ended up in the filter hopper. Same with the spruce saplings and the redstone dust. And then we saw the ender pearls made it through. Now let's look in the overflow chest, and we see that we have all the items in this chest that were sent through the system but didn't have a module to call home. So that's it for this video, guys. That is how you build a very basic item sorter. Keep in mind that there are actually tons of different kinds of item sorters, and I only showed you guys how to build one kind. And actually, with the latest update that allowed hopper minecarts to remain as a single item when broken, allowed for some brand new high-tech sorters. So if you're interested, definitely poke around YouTube and see some of the cooler designs. But today's video is only about that simple one that I just showed you how to make. If you have any questions about this design of item sorter, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer as many as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, but no worries if not. And as always, shine on, little stars.